Gather around kids and grown-ups by the campfire. Tonight, I'm going to share an age-old tale, handed down through the generations, about how stories came to be. This is the story of Anansi, the clever spider god, and his quest to bring stories to our world. Long ago, before any of us existed, the world was a very different place. There were no stories to tell, no laughter around campfires. The world was silent, without narratives to guide and teach us. The great sky god, Niam, was the keeper of all stories. He kept them locked away in a magical box, far out of human reach. Niam was powerful and greatly respected, living in his celestial palace above the clouds, where no one could easily reach him. Now, let me introduce you to Anansi. He was a spider god, very clever and full of cunning. Anansi loved playing tricks and was always looking for adventure. He knew about the box of stories and longed to bring them to Earth. Anansi believed that stories would enrich our lives and connect us to one another. With this burning desire in his heart, Anansi decided he would go to the sky to negotiate with Niam. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he trusted his wit and skill to face any challenge. Determined, Anansi spun a long silk web and began his journey to the sky. He climbed patiently, facing strong winds and the vastness of the firmament, until he reached Niam's celestial palace. When he arrived, Niam was surprised to see Anansi. The sky god didn't expect a visit from the small spider god. Respectfully, Anansi made his request. He wanted the box of stories to share with the people on Earth. Niam, taken aback by Anansi's audacity, thought for a moment. He knew stories were powerful and, in the right hands, could transform the world. To test Anansi's determination and skill, Niam proposed a difficult condition. Anansi had to capture 4 dangerous creatures and bring them to the celestial palace. The creatures were Onini, the great snake; Osibo, the fierce leopard; Momatia, the invisible fairy; and Moboro, the swarm of wild bees. Without hesitation, Anansi accepted Niam's challenge. He knew it would be dangerous, but his confidence in his cleverness and cunning made him believe he could succeed. With a plan in mind, Anansi descended back to Earth, ready to face the 4 creatures and fulfill Niam's condition. Back on Earth, Anansi meticulously planned how to capture each creature. He knew he would need to use not just his strength, but mainly his intelligence to overcome each challenge. So, Anansi began his epic mission, determined to bring stories to Earth and transform the world with the power of narratives. Anansi knew capturing Onini, the great snake, wouldn't be easy. The snake was huge and strong. He spent several days observing Onini in his natural habitat, learning about his movements and habits. After some time, Anansi decided the best way to capture Onini was to use his intelligence and cunning. Anansi cut a long stick and brought it to where Onini liked to coil up. He knew Onini was a proud and curious creature, and he could use this to his advantage. When he found Onini, Anansi started talking loudly, as if he were thinking out loud. "I wonder if this stick is longer or shorter than Onini. I bet Niam would like to know." Hearing Anansi's musings, Onini became curious and, wanting to prove his superiority, approached. Anansi suggested the only way to know the answer was to measure Onini next to the stick. Onini, not suspecting Anansi's intentions, lay next to the stick so they could measure his length. Quickly, Anansi took ropes and began tying Onini to the stick, saying it was to ensure an accurate measurement. Before Onini realized what was happening, Anansi had firmly tied the snake to the stick, preventing him from escaping. Anansi then took Onini, now captured, to a safe place where he could keep him until all the creatures were captured. After capturing Onini, Anansi turned his attention to Osibo, the fierce leopard known for his agility and hunting skills. He spent days following Osibo discreetly, studying his hunting patterns and resting spots. Anansi knew he needed an ingenious trap to capture such a skilled hunter. Anansi found an area where Osibo often passed by and started digging a deep pit. He covered the pit with leaves and branches to disguise it, creating an almost invisible trap. To lure Osibo into the trap, Anansi used a piece of fresh meat as bait, placing it right in the center of the camouflaged pit. Osibo, following the scent of fresh meat, fell directly into Anansi's trap. When he fell into the pit, Osibo tried to climb the steep, slippery walls, but couldn't escape. Anansi then appeared, tying Osibo with a sturdy net, ensuring the leopard couldn't break free. With Osibo captured, Anansi brought him to join Onini, keeping both creatures in a safe place. Anansi knew he still had two challenges ahead, but he was confident in his ability to use his cunning to capture the next creatures. He began planning his approach to capture Momatia, the invisible fairy, knowing the next task would require even more ingenuity. After capturing Onini and Osibo, Anansi turned his attention to Momatia, the invisible fairy, known for her ability to disappear from human sight. He knew capturing something invisible required a unique and ingenious strategy. Anansi started thinking of ways to make the fairy visible, and then capture her. Anansi carved a detailed wooden doll, ensuring it was attractive and interesting. He covered the doll with sticky glue he had prepared from natural materials found in the forest. Anansi then dressed the doll in colorful clothes and placed a piece of sweet yam in the doll's hands, knowing Momatia loved sweets. Anansi positioned the doll near a large, leafy tree where Momatia often appeared to rest and search for food. He hid nearby, waiting patiently for Momatia to notice the doll. It didn't take long for Momatia, curious and attracted by the sweet yam, to see the doll. The invisible fairy, unable to resist the temptation, approached the doll and politely asked for a piece of the sweet. When the doll didn't respond, Momatia became irritated and hit the doll to get its attention. When she hit the doll, Momatia got stuck to the sticky glue covering the doll's surface. The fairy tried to free herself, but the glue was too strong and her efforts were in vain. Anansi emerged from his hiding place and easily captured Momatia, now visible and stuck to the doll. He placed her in a secure container, ensuring she couldn't escape until he completed his mission. With Onini, Osibo, and Momatia captured, Anansi prepared to capture the final creature, Moboro, the swarm of wild bees. He knew the bees were dangerous and he'd have to be extremely careful to avoid getting stung. Anansi planned to use the bees' natural tendency to seek shelter during the rain. Anansi took a large, hollow gourd and prepared it as a trap. He filled the gourd with water and plugged it, leaving a small opening at the top. Then, Anansi headed to Moboro's hive, nestled high in a sturdy tree. To trick the bees, Anansi poured water from the gourd over himself, drenching his clothes and skin to make it look like it was raining. He then ran to the hive, shaking the tree branches and pretending to be in a panic because of the rain. The bees, believing a storm was approaching, started leaving the hive in search of shelter. Anansi quickly held the open gourd near the hive, allowing the bees to enter it to escape the rain. Once the swarm of bees was inside the gourd, Anansi swiftly closed the opening, trapping all the bees inside. He then sealed the gourd tightly to ensure none of the bees could escape. With all four creatures captured, Anansi felt a great sense of relief and satisfaction. He brought the gourd with the bees, along with Onini, Osibo, and Momatia, back to the sky to present them to Niam. Niam was impressed by Anansi's skill and intelligence in completing the challenging task. Recognizing Anansi's effort, Niam gave him the box of stories, allowing him to bring all the stories to Earth. Anansi triumphantly descended to the human world, ready to share the treasure of stories with the people. Using his cleverness and creativity, Anansi managed to overcome seemingly impossible challenges, capturing the four dangerous creatures and bringing the precious gift of stories to humanity. So, my friends, that's how Anansi, the clever spider god, brought stories to us. Now, we have these stories to tell and share around our campfires, keeping the traditions and teachings of our ancestors alive. May this wisdom continue to be passed down from generation to generation, just as I pass it on to you now.